On December 15th, 2022, Diana Cojocari arrived for a scheduled meeting at her daughter's middle school with the guidance counselor in Cornelius, North Carolina. Her 11-year-old daughter, Madalina, hadn't been to school in more than 3 weeks. Diana had promised to bring Madalina with her to the meeting, but she came alone. Who does that sound like, Lori Vallow Daybell? It didn't take long for school officials to realize that something was very wrong. Madalina was missing, and her mother and stepfather never reported her disappearance to police until that day at the school. What followed has been an investigation littered with inconsistent timelines, conflicting statements, and strange behavior, none of which have led to Madalina's whereabouts. Law enforcement continues to search for the now teenager, fully believing that she could possibly still be alive. And I will say, just for those who have a really, really hard time with child cases, I do as well. It really is entirely possible that she's alive and she's just living somewhere else at the direction of her mother. Hey guys, welcome back to Killer Queens. I'm Torella and I've got a disappearance for you today. This one is, I'm gonna go with strange, very strange. First though, I want to give a hey girl thanks to Madison for writing this one up. Thank you so much. And of course, I just want to let you know that if you're new here or if you've been here a while and you want to find some ways to support the show, we've got lots of options. We have 2 bonus episodes a week over on our Patreon. So go check that out, patreon.com/killerqueenspod. That helps keep the lights on around here. Without the support from our patrons, I simply could not do this. I couldn't make any more episodes. And definitely working on bringing Nikita on more episodes, which we need to ramp up the financials to do that. In the meantime, if you are unable to support the show financially, ain't no thing. There's lots of ways to support the show. If you like it, tell somebody about it, right? You can post episodes in Facebook groups that are dedicated to true crime podcasts. You can go over and watch our YouTube videos and help us make money over there. You can do that for free. Just views will help us. Commenting on things over there will help us. Following us and engaging on social helps. So all of those things are super helpful. The other thing is, if you are listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple, you're not a member, you will hear some ads. And those ads are a huge support to the show. So if you don't mind, support those sponsors if they happen to align with some of the needs that you have. That always helps us out. Make sure that they know that we sent you. And if you want ad-free, you can join us over on Patreon because everything over there is totally ad-free. So just wanted to drop that in as just a little if you didn't know, now you know. And we love you guys and your support means everything. So let's get into the case. We do have some brief mention today of possible child abuse and child neglect. Let's talk a little bit about Madalina. Madalina Cojocari was born on April 11th, 2011 to mother Diana Cojocari in the European country of Muldova. Muldova is sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania, with the majority of the population speaking Romanian. According to court documents, the space for Madalina's birth father on the birth certificate is blank. So Diana is the only birth parent that we know of. While still in Muldova and prior to Madalina's birth, Diana met a man named Christopher Palmer on an online dating site called Global Ladies in 2008. Okay, this is off topic. I know that his name is spelled differently, but have you seen the movie Waitress? Because when I heard Christopher Palmer, all I could think of was Dr. Palmer. Dr. Palmer. No, thank you, Dr. Palmer. Dr. Palmer. I don't know. That's all I could think of is Dr. Palmer. Love that movie. It's so great. Anyway, she meets him on Global Ladies. And Christopher Palmer lived in the United States. And in 2010, he actually went to Muldova to visit Diana, meet her in person. Palmer said after that, he and Diana lost contact for several years. And during that time is when Diana got pregnant and then gave birth to Madalina. I almost called him Dr. Palmer. Christopher Palmer is not Madalina's father. Not biologically, anyway. In 2015, Diana and Madalina came to the U.S., and Christopher Palmer, later told the courts that they had to get married within 90 days or she would have to go back to Muldova. He later told the courts that Diana had lied about her age, so she said that she was 6 years older than she was, and she ended up being actually 23 years younger than him. Now, Christopher. 23 years versus the 17 you thought she was, still a big freaking difference, dude. So, okay. They got married in early 2016, and the new family eventually settled into a house on Victoria Bay Drive in Cornelius, North Carolina. Cornelius, which borders Lake Norman, is about a 30-minute drive north from Charlotte. Palmer, who worked as a mechanical designer, legally became 6-year-old Madalina's stepfather. Unfortunately, there has not been much publicized about Madalina's life, even from neighbors and people who knew her at school, which is kind of crazy. She was quiet. She loved horses. She was a horse girl, and she really loved most animals. There are several pictures published of her with horses, and one of her standing on a beach with her arms outstretched and a toy pony in each hand. Family members described her as a beautiful, smart, kind, and loving 11-year-old girl with greatness in her future. So now let's get to the details of her disappearance. In late November of 2022, Bailey Middle School guidance counselor Denise Lampkin made several calls to Madalina's parents, as well as also sending emails. And she was concerned because Madalina had accumulated multiple absences, and this was out of the ordinary. So she says, Denise, that normally she would contact parents once their child missed 2 days of school, hoping to prevent a pattern from starting. She was also a bit more adamant about making sure Madalina wasn't having any issues at school since she was a first-year middle school student. Madalina had last been at school on Monday, November the 21st, so she did not end up coming to school on the 22nd, but then all students had 23rd, 24th, and 25th off. It was Thanksgiving, okay? So, and then that would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then you've got Saturday, Sunday. So Monday after the holiday, and remember, she'd already missed the Tuesday before that as well, she didn't come back. During her attempted communications with the parents, Denise Lampkin notified them that Madalina had exceeded her allotted number of absences. Now they need documentation. Why is she not here? What is going on? If she's going to miss any more, we need to know why. On December the 13th, Lampkin ended up delivering a truancy packet to the family's home. Finally, Diana made contact with the school, and Denise Lampkin said, okay, bring Madalina in for a meeting. Let's figure it out. That was going to be at the school on December the 15th. When Diana gets there for her meeting, Madalina's not with her. So Denise Lampkin notifies the principal, the school resource officer, and the Division of Social Services. The school resource officer then calls the Cornelius Police Department, who immediately respond to the school. And when confronted by law enforcement, so they do all of this while Diana is still there. I mean, they go quick. Like, to their credit, the moment they realize something is wrong, they've got all the agencies that need to be involved. The problem is we're behind the 8 ball on this. Like, it's already been a few weeks at this point. When confronted by law enforcement, Diana admitted that Madalina had actually been missing since noon on Tuesday, November 22nd. This is more than 3 weeks earlier. According to the arrest sheet, Diana then advised that she'd last seen Madalina on Wednesday, November 23rd at 10 p.m. She said Madalina had gone to her bedroom to go to bed, and she just never saw her since then. Okay. Are we not concerned? Are we not asking questions? There is no part of me that my children go to bed one night and I just don't see them the next morning. I'm calling everybody. You just didn't, well, I don't know. I didn't see her the next morning. I don't know. She explains that she and Chris Palmer had an argument the night before that. And the next day, the 24th, Chris ended up driving to his family's home in Michigan to pick up some belongings. I'll explain more about that later. Diana then said she goes to check on Madalina that morning around 11:30 a.m., which also, look, I get that like a 16-year-old kid might sleep till 11:30 or a college dude or something, but like an 11-year-old little girl, she's up before 11:30. That's the first time you're checking on her. So she goes to check on her at 11:30. She's not in her room. Okay. Then Diana waits until Chris gets home from Michigan on Saturday the 26th. Now remember, she says, I don't see her since the 23rd at 10 p.m. Saturday the 26th at 7 p.m. he gets home. And she says, oh my God, I've been meaning to ask you, have you seen Madalina? He's like, no, isn't she with you? Like, I thought she was with you. Do you not know where she is? She doesn't call him and ask. She doesn't send him a text and say, did you bring her with you? Because at one point she says, oh, well, I just kind of figured that when he went to Michigan, he just brought her with him. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine? So the officer who questioned Diana at the school said, why did you not report her missing? And Diana said that she was concerned that it might start a conflict between her and her husband. I don't give a fuck. I don't care who I have to start a fight with to find out where my child is. You got another thing coming. If you think I'm going to not step on your toes, I'll step on your toes. I'll step on his toes. I'll step on all your toes. But I'm going to find out where my child is. She didn't want to make a scene. Now, wait till you find out what she will make a scene about, because it doesn't make any sense anyway, but just wait. Oh, I probably should have told you window open scale all the way, open that window all the way. This is an infuriating case. So the officer then asks Diana to call Chris. He needs to come to the school. We need to talk to this man too. Chris confirms, yes, I did take a trip to Michigan. I left on the 23rd. I didn't leave on the 24th in the morning. I left on the 23rd. He said he didn't see Madalina on the day that he left, and he thought the last time he saw her was a week before he left for his trip. A week before. All right. The amount of not normal that this family dynamic is, there is no word for it. There's no word for this dynamic. We may have to make one up right now, and it's not scrumtrelescent. I don't know what the word is, but this makes no sense. No sense at all. So he had not seen her for a week before. And when you find out the exact dynamic of this family, that part makes sense for Chris to not know where she is, because normally when he got home at the end of the day, he didn't see her. He'd left before she got up. She'd be at school, whatever. The way that Diana operated around Chris was very strange. Madalina spent almost all of her time in her bedroom, even eating in there. So it's just very strange. But anyway, he gets back. He says he doesn't see Madalina. He hadn't seen her for a week before he left. And he says he gets back and Diana said, where is Madalina? Did you take her with you? And he's like, no, I would have thought she'd been with you. But his question to her, he said, was, did you hide Madalina somewhere? Like, no, I didn't take her with me, but did you hide her somewhere? Hide her. And then Diana said, well, did you hide her? And he's like, no. It's the way that they kept asking it reminds me of a few things. It feels like that Spider-Man meme where it's like you know, just like everybody pointing at everybody. But then also like, it's like, you know, when your sibling is like, you smell like a fart. And then you're like, no, you smell like a fart. And then you're like, well, you smell like a fart. Like, that's what it feels like. Did you hide her somewhere? No. Did you hide her somewhere? No. But did you? Like, it's just a lot of like, and the questions, they don't make sense. They don't make sense. But Nevertheless, Chris did not report her missing, okay? According to the arrest sheet, quote, Chris stated he spoke with Diana several times about Madalina's whereabouts over the next 3 weeks, and both stated they did not know where she was, but they also did not contact the police to report Madalina missing. It's unclear exactly when Madalina went missing, is the problem. We know it was sometime after the last day that she went to school, but we don't know exactly when from there. And it became even less clear the more they talked to Diana and Chris. Fortunately, though, police were able to pull video footage from Madalina's school bus from November the 21st, which was her last day at school. And you can see her getting up when it's her stop is coming up. She's standing there. There's a few other kids in front of her. She looks like this is a regular day. Like, I'm not worried about going home. I'm getting off the bus like I always do. She's like playing with her hair. She's kind of looking around. She's got her little backpack on. It looks like you would getting off the bus. I was a bus rider growing up. I can imagine this is exactly what I looked like getting off the bus every day. She did not look upset in any way. She didn't look nervous to have to be getting off the bus here, like none of that stuff. And then she gets off the bus and that's it. And then after that, she just disappears. All right, so it was clear from the moment police made contact with Diana and Chris that something was absolutely extremely off. And you can hear there is a time when Chris goes into the police station and obviously they're recording that interview. But then when the officers come out into the hall, they're wearing like body cam and you hear one of them go, this is super weird. Something's off. Something's really weird. And it is. It doesn't make any sense. Both parents were just seeming to blame the other regarding Madalina's disappearance and why it wasn't reported, but they also weren't worried about it. I don't understand. Diana said her daughter didn't have any friends or family that she could be staying with, and she just had absolutely no idea where Madalina was. Cornelius police searched the family home, but they found absolutely no signs of Madalina, but they did find her backpack and some of her clothing was missing. On December the 17th, Chris and Diana were both arrested and they were charged with failure to report a missing child. Now, I'm going to piss you off. Now, she's kind of been in the news or at least on social media lately. I know we haven't talked about her in a long time, but this is thanks to Casey Anthony. Remember how she entered the legal field in 2011? Well, one of the ways that she entered the legal field was because she waited 31 days to report her daughter missing. Some states enacted Kaylee's Law, which is you can be charged sometimes with a felony and spend up to a year in jail for not reporting a child missing within a certain amount of time. South Carolina had that law in effect. So Chris and Diana never reported Madalina missing. She was missing for 3 weeks before anybody said anything. They get charged. Police enlisted the help of the FBI and started searching for Madalina. Officers went door to door throughout the neighborhood. They spoke to everyone they could. They would search houses and yards. They used boats to drag nearby bodies of water. Officers continued to question both Chris and Diana, but they denied knowing where she was. And it was truly as though Madalina had vanished into thin air. Now, when we talk about the timeline, and you'll see, articles, and I'm sure people have done podcast videos, all that kind of stuff on this case, Diana's story changes quite a lot. Her timeline changes. The things that she says changes. The facts of the case change according to her. So we're doing the best we can to give you a consistent timeline, but you might see different stuff out there. While the CPD, FBI, and local community continued to search for Madalina, her disappearance was gaining international attention because of her ties to Muldova. No one could fathom what might have happened to her, though, and rumors started to swirl, as the community couldn't understand why no one would have reported her missing for 3 weeks. Look, if she is somewhere with family, if she went back to Muldova, obviously not of her own accord, her mother had a hand in that, or even possibly stepfather. I personally don't think so, but maybe. Why wouldn't you just say that, right? Why wouldn't you contact the school and say, hey guys, we moved. She moved. We've moved. We're moving. Like, why would you not do that? But you wait 3 weeks to say anything to anybody. And then when people start asking questions, your answer is, I don't know. I thought she was with you. Did you not know where she was? I thought she was with you. It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad fucking look is what it is. And this led to many people thinking that Chris and Diana were involved in her disappearance. They knew exactly where she was, and it was not good. So they both stayed in jail while people continued to search. And the Cornelius Police Department ended up executing multiple search warrants, including warrants on the family's home, cell phones, and credit card records. And while some of this was not released to the public until later, the information was found by law enforcement shortly after Madalina was discovered to be missing. A text message was found on Diana's phone from December 2nd that, according to the report, quote, indicated she was in the presence of the missing child. The same report says, quote, on December 4th, 2022, Diana Cojocari traveled toward the North Carolina mountains claiming to be searching for Madalina. A gas station worker in Hickory, North Carolina, which is about 50 miles northwest and toward the mountains, told police that they'd seen Diana at the station getting an oil change on December the 3rd. They also said there were children's toys inside the car, but no child. Sugar Mountain Police Department shared surveillance photos of a man and young girl from December 22nd that were physically consistent with Madalina and the only other blood relative that lived in the U.S. These photos were from a Lowe's food grocery store in Linville, North Carolina, which is about 50 miles northwest from Hickory and about 100 miles from Cornelius. The blood relative that the report was referring to was a distant relative of Diana by the name of Octavian Sebanu. Continued searches of Diana's phone and text records revealed that she'd had extensive communication on December 2nd with this cousin. Distant relative. I assume cousin, I don't know why. It's also reported that there were multiple phone calls to phone numbers belonging to unidentified targets involved in ongoing narcotic trafficking investigations. However, this is unclear if it's referring to communication from Diana or the relative Octavian Sebanu. Why can I say that? Law enforcement began a thorough search of Western North Carolina, focusing on the rural forested area. Unfortunately, they found no signs of Madalina. According to motions filed during Chris's later trial, during an interview with the FBI, Sebanu, and I may be saying that wrong, I'm not totally sure, told him that Diana called him because she realized that the medical excuse she was using to explain Madalina's school absences was not going to work much longer. Diana allegedly told Sebanu that she needed his help to get her and Madalina away from Chris. Sebanu says Diana was trying to leave Chris and that her mother, Rodica, was also trying to help her and Madalina leave the country. She also told him that she thought she was in danger, not from her husband, but some other unnamed third party. And it's also really confusing because it's not really listed anywhere that this distant relative has denied involvement in Madalina's disappearance, or was he ever even named a suspect or anything like that. But who knows? The theories that Diana and Chris were involved in Madalina's disappearance continued to escalate. Diana said multiple times that she believed Chris had done something to her. Another police report said that in one recorded jail cell call between Diana and her mother, the women discuss a bag with money, withdrawing cash, and, quote, a theory that Chris gave the girl away for money. During a recorded call between Chris's brother and sister-in-law, Chris said that his wife had a significant amount of cash and he was unsure where it came from. While Diana was in jail, she was charged with felony possession of a controlled substance when she was found with cocaine and fentanyl-based substances in her shirt pocket in March of 2023. Ultimately, these charges were dismissed in July, with officials stating that they couldn't comment on the situation. I'm very confused by that. It seems that her phone records indicate that she's having communications with people who are involved in narcotic trafficking. She's then found in possession of narcotics in jail. She got a bunch of cash on her. Did they drug test her at all? Like, I can't imagine that she's got coke and fentanyl in her pocket and that's just for fun, or maybe she's selling it. I don't know. Like, what's up with that, you know? In August of 2023, Chris bonded out of jail and he returned to the family home in Cornelius. He pleaded not guilty to the charge of failing to report a missing child, and his trial was scheduled for May of 2024. Diana pleaded guilty to the charges after refusing to appear in court in February of 2024. She was released on May 20th, 2024, after serving the maximum amount of time for the charge, according to the judge. Now we're going to talk about Chris's trial. You know, I love a trial. In May of 2024, law enforcement continued their search for Madalina, but it seemed like they were no closer to finding her than they were back in December of 2022. Diana still denied knowing where her daughter was. In late May, after 2 days of jury selection, Chris's trial began for his charge of failing to report Madalina missing. Now remember, this is not a murder, this is not a kidnapping, this is literally just for not reporting it. The first 2 witnesses to testify were Madalina's bus driver, who explained that she never had any behavioral problems on the bus. She also said that Madalina didn't smile much. The next witness was Denise Lampkin, remember the guidance counselor from Madalina's school that got the ball rolling in the first place. And she said that she had tried to contact both the parents. Chris never answered the phone. She left voicemails on both of their phones. Those were eventually played for the court to hear. After a break for a holiday weekend, the trial resumed with CPD officer Bradley Nichols taking the stand, and he was the officer that responded to Bailey Middle School the day that Madalina had been reported missing. Jurors watched the body cam footage from that day that included his initial questioning of Diana and of Chris. And in the footage, officers asked Chris if he thought, do you think that Diana actually knows where Madalina is? Would she maybe be hiding her for any reason? Chris said that Diana and Madalina were very close, so part of him thought she might, but he wasn't totally sure. Chris said that he had received voicemails from the school regarding Madalina's disappearance, but according to him, Diana assured him that she would handle it. You know who else this reminds me of a little bit? Ruby Frankie's husband. Now, we're going to cover that on the YouTube in a watch party. We're not going to do episode by episode because it's absolutely too incredibly sad and heartbreaking. So we're going to do it as like one episode on the YouTube, which will also be a mixtape, a Patreon episode. So you can get the audio of that if you're a patron. But if you want to watch the video coverage, it'll be on there. Anyway, all that to say, Ruby Frankie's husband was all, I didn't know, which, you know, we'll talk about that. But it's just it feels very just like plausible deniability. Like, why would you say, hey, I'm getting phone calls from the school that she's not going to school. Where is she? I haven't seen her, and you say you don't know where she is. Don't worry about it, I'll handle it. And he's like, well, she told me she was going to handle it. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Ask a question? Report the child missing? What was I supposed to do? I'm getting mad again. Okay. So she's going to handle it. Whatever. Police asked him if it was okay if they looked through Madalina's bedroom to see if there was anything that could help them find her, see if there was anything amiss that stuck out to them. And Chris was like, no, that's fine. You can go. He seemed very cooperative. He did add, though, that they'd been throwing a lot of stuff away recently, trying to clean up. Shortly after, the state concluded their arguments and the defense began its argument, and Chris took the stand in his own defense. And normally that is a big, like, don't do it. But in this case, it could help, I think. Because again, this family dynamic is not like, if you are applying your logic of a well-adjusted, typical family dynamic where both parents are involved, where the parents have some sort of a romantic relationship with each other, where both parents have a somewhat close relationship with the child and would notice if they were missing after a week. Like, you can't apply those dynamics here because it doesn't make any, it doesn't work. That's not the dynamic that these people had. Chris Palmer went over to Muldova and he brought a wife back, and it appeared to be simply a business arrangement, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But the normal family dynamics that we're used to, that like, if you're hearing this and you're like, it's just not the same. You'll see. So he takes a stand in his own defense. And I do think it can help add a lot of context just to, again, how different this dynamic was. Chris answered several questions about his work history, his career, how he met Diana, all that stuff. He said that his marriage to Diana was spiritual, never physical. In fact, they'd only shared a bedroom for about a year. And then after that, Diana would sleep in Madalina's room. He described the marriage as more of a companionship and that Diana was a very protective mother. So Chris worked full-time. Diana was a stay-at-home mother and wife, and she was in charge of making sure that Madalina got up, got out the door, got to school in the mornings. This kind of further backed up Chris's claim of why he didn't return any of the school's calls regarding Madalina's absences, because it kind of seemed very much like Diana handled Madalina. Chris didn't deal with it at all in any way, shape, or form. He said that there would be times where, like, maybe Diana would go run an errand or go do this or that or whatever. And Madalina would be, he called her Maddie, would be in her room playing her horse game on her computer. And so she just didn't want to go with Diana. So she would stay home and he would technically be there with her. But it did not appear that they did any activities together. It didn't seem like they really spent any time together. Like, literally, that little girl got up, got ready, went to school, came home from school, and she was in her room with the door shut, or she was with Diana out somewhere, apparently. He said that Diana was really religious and she actively participated in worship and in a worship and prayer group. Madalina would often join her mother in worship. When Chris tried to learn more about their faith-based practices, he said Diana would direct him to go learn on your own. I'm not explaining this to you. Chris explained that Diana's behavior became stranger and stranger as time went on. And she started to spend more and more time praying. And he said that Madalina would ask him to go for bike rides or walk to the park sometimes because Diana was too busy with prayer. So it seems like they started to spend more time together toward the end. But it seemed like before that, most of Madalina's time was spent in her room or with Diana. And then as Diana got more involved in her prayers and everything like that, and I'm not totally sure what this religion is. They just called it a spiritual practice. So I'm not totally sure. That Madalina would spend some more time with Chris. And it seemed like Madalina and Chris wanted to get out of the house because at one point Chris said Diana would pray really, really loudly at night. And he said in court, quote, "With my door closed, it sounds like almost screaming at the top of her lungs," in a different room. There were several reports of Diana burning things in her backyard, including an old mattress or couch, and we'll talk more about this later. Chris said that Diana told him that this was part of her rituals. She would also use a knife to, quote, "cut the invisible strings from demons" around Madalina and Chris. He said that their life as a family changed in 2022. They started taking fewer trips. He and his wife were growing apart. When people asked Diana what she did for work, she would say that her work was to save souls. Diana and Madalina would take trips without Chris, often to the North Carolina mountains to go hiking. He said around this time, he and Diana started to argue more often. He said that the arguments often stemmed from Diana telling him how he should be acting. Now, this is a little, all of it's bizarre. He said that Diana would get really upset with him if he did random things, like if he wiggled his nose because it itched. And she would accuse him of trying to send some sort of message to her, like using his nose. She seemed to be getting increasingly paranoid during this time. And when he would ask her questions about her spirituality or rituals, she would refuse to tell him, saying she didn't want him to know too much. Chris explained that on a typical weekday, he did not see Madalina much. When he left for work around 6:30 a.m., both Diana and Madalina would be asleep. And then when he came home from work around 7:30 p.m., he sometimes would see Madalina, but usually she ate dinner in her bedroom. And that was it. And it's unclear if this was newer behavior, if it just increased over time, but Chris explained that Diana was very paranoid. She may have been paranoid in the beginning, but she began to get increasingly more paranoid as time went on. He testified in another hearing that Diana was afraid. Now, look, she wasn't afraid of Chris, which is where I thought her fear was going to come from. Like, she was afraid of Chris. She was afraid to leave him or something like that. That's not the case here. She was afraid that she was being watched, that she was being recorded, like all of these things, specifically monitored by Russian entities, including Vladimir Putin, which, and Michael Jackson from the dead. He's dead. He was no longer alive when she began to feel that Michael Jackson was monitoring her. She also thought Madalina's school was being watched so they could traffic her and that they were brainwashing children. As a result of Diana's fears, Chris said that they visited family in Michigan in order to find a place for her and Madalina to hide until Diana felt they were safe from the Russian entities tracking them and, of course, Michael Jackson. His family agreed to help, but ultimately Diana started accusing Chris's sister-in-law of recording them. And so she was like, I'm not staying here. You're obviously in on it. So we're going to leave. Chris explained this caused a lot of conflict in their marriage because he felt responsible for finding a place for them to be where they would be safe until whatever it was that was scaring Diana or bothering Diana passed. At one point, Chris said he'd made some investments in silver, and he had made Diana a, quote, custodial guardian of the investments, which just meant that she could make financial decisions on the investment if something happened to him. Diana did not want this. She thought it meant that someone could control her. And this was another point of contention between the two. Diana reportedly accused him of selling his soul to the devil just for making an investment. Chris was asked to tell the court more about what happened in November of 2022. So he said that on November 22nd, the day after Madalina was last seen on the school bus video footage, he and Diana had a huge argument about a coffee cup. Now, the cup had a snowflake on it. It was a mug. And she did not allow anything inside the house that had a symbol on it. What she felt that it was a symbol of, I'm not sure, but anything that had a symbol on it was not allowed in the house. The argument escalated. Diana ended up smashing the mug and several other dishes in the trash can. Chris then said, Diana said, you better go replace that mug with something that doesn't have a symbol on it. So he left for work that day, stopped at Walmart on his way there, got a coffee mug, I guess, and then went on to work. He said he did not see Madalina that day. Chris told the courts that his wife was very adamant about him taking an unplanned trip to Michigan on November 23rd. She wanted Chris to travel back up to Michigan and go get some of Madalina's clothes that they had left there, I'm assuming that's from when, they had stayed with his family before until Diana accused his sister-in-law of stuff. Chris reiterated he left for Michigan on the 23rd. He did not see Madalina before he left. Diana said, she's sleeping, don't wake her up. He said, okay. Chris gets back to Cornelius on the 26th. And Diana immediately sent him out to run errands that took him several hours. And when he gets back to the house, he saw that Madalina's desk had been moved and there was a dresser near the front door. Now, the dresser was not unusual because Diana would often put furniture up against the front door for protection, I guess. He did not see Madalina. He assumed she was asleep. The following week, Chris testified that he worked the entire week from his company's office. Normally, he could work remotely. Well, now that doesn't make any sense because didn't he say he always got up super early? He left for work at 6:30 and then he got back around 7:30 and Madalina was already asleep. So if he worked remotely normally, was he working somewhere else? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. But he said that week he had to work at the office. They were having internet issues at home, and he said Diana would often unplug the internet, maybe to get him out of the house. I don't know. Now, this day, I think it was because of something weird, but, you know. An internet service provider came out to the house on December 1st, but nobody was home, despite Chris believing that she would be home because she was supposed to always be home during the day. So he said, yeah, you guys can go out there and fix the internet. They get there and they say, nobody's here. We had to leave. So he's like, WTF? So he texts Diana and he's like, hey, the internet guy came. Like, he said you weren't at home. Where are you? She's like, oh, we're out of town. Then she was like, by we, I mean me and Madalina. He's like, no shit. Yeah, I know. The jury was then shown a picture on December 6th by Chris. The picture was of a note that said gone for 2 days and signed Diana. Chris said there was another note that said we've gone hiking. So Chris assumed Diana and Madalina went to the mountains to go hiking. They did this often. He didn't think anything of it. The defense then played several recordings that Diana made secretly, according to Chris, where she asked him if he had stolen her wallet, if he'd called the police on her. And she also recorded herself telling Chris that she had a feeling something was wrong. And the clip that we have is from a news broadcast, so you will hear the anchor or reporter kind of interjecting a few times, but I'm going to play them and then we'll discuss.
Chris, today is Friday, the 2nd of December.
Yes. Each recording begins with a date and an accusation.
My wallet 3 days ago was on the shelf right here, under the stairs. Now it's missing. Do you know where is it?
No, I don't.
There's another recording a few days later.
Did you call the police to tell them that you're worried about me?
No, I did not.
Because there was a policeman while I was hiking. I stopped on the side of the road to rest. And he came to my car and he said, there was a person calling me and telling that they're worried about you. Are you okay?
And there's also an assertion from Madalina Cojocari. Notes provided in state's evidence noted that she appeared to be paranoid.
In March and April this year, 2022, I felt, my intuition told me, something is going on. I do not understand what's that. I do not know where it's coming from, but my intuition, woman intuition, okay, says something wrong can happen. Can you, Chris Palmeter, take me and Madalina somewhere to the members of your family or to whoever you think you can, so you can protect us if something wrong happens? I don't know what can that be, but I was like feeling like
I did do
something negative.
Okay. So why would he steal her wallet? And she didn't notice it was gone for 3 days, or she waited 3 days to ask him about it. I'm not really sure, but he testified that, obviously like she didn't work. So he would move money over into an account for her to do stuff, pay for stuff, like whatever. He was making really, really good money at the time, he says. Now, I did read somewhere else that he lost his job shortly before all this happened. But for the most part, he was making pretty good money. So, he could maybe steal her wallet to be controlling, right? Like hide it from her, take it and put it somewhere where she can't find it. So she can't go buy stuff, or so she can't get out of the house because she doesn't have her driver's license or whatever it is. The interaction that's recorded, though, doesn't sound like somebody who's afraid. It sounds like somebody who is interrogating him, and he seems exasperated because she won't stop asking the same questions or the same types of questions. And I feel like it seems like he knows that there's no truth to it. And he's just like, oh my gosh, how many times are you going to ask this kind of thing? Like, she doesn't seem in any way. I feel like if you were in a situation where he was controlling and using money to control you, you might say something like, oh, I misplaced my wallet. Do you know where it is? Or something like that. But she is interrogating him. It does not sound like there's any fear in her voice. I'm not saying it's not possible, but You know what I mean? So Chris then tells the court he gets that truancy notification on December 9th from Madalina's school, so he looked up what it meant. Chris, your first language is English. You live in the United States. I guess he didn't have a kid technically of his own, but he adopted Madalina when she was 6. Doesn't everybody know? Like, if you went to school, you know what truancy is, especially in the 2000s or later. Like, that became a thing. It didn't like really used to be that big of a thing, but it's more strict now. Anyway, I don't know. After that, he said he started looking for both his wife and stepdaughter, but he could not find them. He said he didn't see Diana until the 11th. He didn't know Madalina was missing until the police called him from her school. And as it got closer to Christmas, Chris said that he continued to ask Diana about Madalina. But he alleged that she said, "We're not family. You need to make your own family. If you want to talk about somebody's family, make your own." Savage. I mean, by this point, Madalina's 11, so he's been in her life for 5 years. Chris was asked about where Diana had been staying since she was released from jail, and he said that they had arranged for her to stay at a hotel in a town close by. She stayed at their home for one night, and that was it. He did not want her staying with him. Despite everything, Chris repeatedly testified he did not believe that Diana would hurt Madalina. He did say at one point, "I think that Diana took her somewhere with her Moldovan family. I believe Diana has her tucked away somewhere where she's not going to be found." The next person to take the stand was Cornelius police detective Gina Patterson, and she explained the findings from those initial searches that were carried out in the family home and in their vehicle. Inside Diana's car, they found Madalina's notebook, receipts from Western Union wire transfers, a road atlas, and a knife. Inside the home, they found receipts from Diana's debit card. There were several receipts showing that Diana had sent large amounts of money to relatives in Muldova, including $3,000 on December the 13th. There was also about $7,500 cash in her purse. And remember, in one of those jail phone calls, Chris said he noticed that she had a bunch of cash, but he didn't know where it came from. And he has access to the bank account, so I'm inferring there that he looked at the bank account and was like, well, she didn't withdraw it, so somebody gave her a large sum of money. When asked about the recipients of the money transfers, Detective Patterson said that the money was sent to Diana's mother and a priest in Muldova. Patterson also confirmed that Diana made multiple trips to Western North Carolina between December 2nd and 15th, as well as Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I think I said South Carolina earlier by accident in one of my things. I don't know. I'm feeling like that happened. Maybe it didn't. When Patterson is discussing a 14-hour interview that Chris did with investigators in December, she said he told her that Diana had burned everything with Madalina's face on it. Again, I just don't. Okay. So he knew in December, presumably this is the interview that happens right after he's notified that Madalina is missing from the school. And he's giving an interview. He's like, yeah, it's weird. She has been burning everything with her face on it. Oh, and I don't know where she is, and I haven't seen her in weeks. And she says she doesn't know where she is either. But she's burning everything with her face on it. Now that you mention it, that's kind of weird, don't you think? One of Chris's friends took the stand to describe Chris and Diana's marriage from his point of view, and he said he never saw any affection between them. It seemed like Chris had to get permission for everything. Diana watched his every move. Chris's younger brother, Matthew, also took the stand and confirmed or echoed what his brother's friend had said. He said Diana was very controlling. He said that Diana, quote, told Madalina what to do and when to do it, and that his brother was essentially there as a babysitter. Like, again, this was certainly an arrangement. There was no romantic partnership with them. After Matthew's testimony, both sides presented their closing arguments. Chris's defense attorneys said that though the main focus is still finding Madalina, the point of this case that the jury was to deliberate on is whether Chris knew that she was missing or not. Because remember, this case is failure to report a child missing. The attorney accused Diana of, quote, gaslighting her husband into believing Madalina was with her. Doesn't that fall apart, though, when he says, like, I asked her where she was, and she was like, I don't know, do you know where she is? And I was like, well, I don't know where she is. She was supposed to be with you. so don't you know where she is? And then she's like, no, but do you know where she is? And he's like, well, did you hide her? And she's like, no, did you hide her? Doesn't that fall apart? Okay. After deliberating for less than 30 minutes, the jury returned with a verdict, and they found Chris guilty of the felony charge. Since he'd already served 8 months in prison, he was sentenced to 30 months of supervised probation in order to pay back his defense attorney the over $30,000 it cost to take his case. On June 20th, 2023, Chris officially filed for divorce from Diana. On June 25th, Diana was officially named a suspect in the disappearance of Madalina Cojocari. In September, U.S. Customs and Immigrations confirmed that Diana had left the United States and had gone back to Muldova. And being that she was only named a suspect, the police could not prevent her from leaving the country. This, of course, has significantly complicated the investigation and search for Madalina, as well as increased the public and law enforcement suspicion of her involvement. Most recent updates. On April 11th, 2024, Cornelius Police Department held a gathering to celebrate Madalina's 13th birthday. They put a box in the lobby. You could come in and write a birthday card for her, a note. It was really sweet. And they are hoping that by her next birthday, which is, I think this releases right after her birthday. Yeah. This should release on April the 15th. We try to plan them out ahead. Sometimes things get shifted around. So this should release April 15th. And by then, her next birthday should have already passed. Hopefully when this releases, you guys, we know where she is. How amazing would that be? Like, that would be amazing. It is coming up really quickly, though. Oh. In January of 2025, search warrants were unsealed that revealed what was found in the family's fire pit in the days after Madalina was reported missing. This included a mattress, clothing, a Halloween costume, family photos, as well as carpet from the spare upstairs bedroom. It's been said that the mattress was the trundle bed mattress from Madalina's room, one that she often used to jump on. During his trial, Chris mentioned, remember, that Diana had been burning things more often around this time, and he would go out to the fire pit to see strange things that wouldn't burn, like stainless steel mugs and metal racks. He added that when he went out there the next day, everything, including the ashes, would be cleaned out. The newly revealed warrant also gave more details about the money that Diana had sent to the priest in Muldova. She'd spoken to him on the phone and sent him a total of $4,000 in the weeks after Madalina had disappeared. A warrant executed by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation revealed that law enforcement seized a phone in late December just after Madalina was reported missing. It had a Discord account with 37 unread messages. Now, if you are an elderly like me, I've heard of Discord. I kind of know what it is. It took me a really long time to understand Reddit. I use Reddit now, but I remember when Reddit came out and people would talk about Reddit and they would be like, yeah, it's a subreddit. I'm like, first of all, I don't know what the big Reddit is. Now you're wanting me to get into like fucking fractions of Reddit. It's like, what is even a Reddit, right? So like, I'm midway understanding on Discord. Discord is an app, but Madison knows we are elderly and she's getting us through it, okay? Discord is an app used to voice, video, and chat and is reportedly popular among gamers. It's also, of course, like every other app, used by pedophiles and child predators to find victims and send exploitation materials. Fantastic. We love that. Could somebody make one of these apps and then like monitor it for shit like that? Is that like a novel idea? Why? I don't know. The warrant read, investigators believe this account belongs to the missing minor child. The investigation involves the believed sexual exploitation of minor child victim. It's unclear whose phone this was, but some reports say that this might have been an old phone that Madalina was using that could connect to Wi-Fi. God, this is scary. Okay. Ooh, okay. So my kids have old iPhones. We've got that shit locked down pretty hard. And there is, I need to do more research on it, but there is a way. So like my children cannot download an app, even if it's free, without it sending a message to my phone, and I have to approve it, and I have to do my Face ID and type in my password to make it work. And then I've got to go type in a number that it sends me to my phone on their phone. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a pain in the ass to download an app on their phone. And we don't allow any types of chats or anything like that. All chat has to be turned off, like all that kind of stuff. Or it's an app, you have to have an app you can't chat on. But yeah, this is terrifying. Like, please, please, please download apps that monitor your kids' phones. Please lock them down. Please, like, oh gosh, this is just so scary. And there hasn't been any further information released on this either. So we really don't know, you know? On the Where is Madalina Cojocari Facebook page, there are many theories about what happened to her and where she might be. Chris's younger brother, Matthew, is part of that group, and he's responded to several comments addressing concerns. He said that the mattress that was burned was Madalina's bedroom's spare mattress and that it was old and the springs were broken. So I guess he's saying it's not weird that it was burned. I don't know. When police went to do their initial search of the family's home, they found a doorway in the kitchen that looked like it was under construction. And Chris originally said they were making it into an apartment area. In the Facebook group, though, Matthew said that he actually was the one who had closed up that doorway. It was reportedly done at Diana's request to separate the garage from the living space. The noise from Chris's laser machine, which was kept and used in the garage, which he used for work, was really loud. Pictures of the area and layout make sense with this explanation, because if you just see the picture, you're like, why are they all of a sudden renovating stuff? Why are they tearing stuff out? That does kind of make sense. Matthew reported that both he and Chris do not know where Diana got the money that she had sent to the priest, but that Chris did not give it to her. When asked what he thinks happened to Madalina, Matthew responded, I think they got her out of the country and that she is hiding with her family and friends. Who are they? Well, that's what we're trying to find out. We're following the facts, the people who they were in contact with, and following the money trail. Believe me, we all, including Chris, want Madalina to be found safe. Diana at this time is still in Muldova with her family. Her public Facebook profile shows a lot of posts that are pictures of scenery or up close of flowers. Madison said she scrolled through and there's only one picture of Madalina on the whole fucking thing, which is also kind of weird. Unless it's one of those things where it's like, it's a private Facebook page and so you can only see certain things, but I don't know. Anyway, as far as we can tell, Chris still lives in Cornelius. The Cornelius Police Department and the surrounding community have not given up on finding Madalina, who would be 14 as of a few days ago, again, as long as this releases on the 15th, like we plan to. Authorities fully believe that Madalina could still be alive. And that's why I say, like, once you hear all of this, you're like, maybe she is. But what doesn't make sense is why would Diana not just fucking say that? Why would Diana not just say, look, I've got her back in Muldova and I'm making plans to get myself back over there too. She's with my family and she's safe. Why wouldn't you say that unless you can't produce any evidence of that? You know? Madalina Cojocari was last seen on November 21st, 2022. At the time, she was 4'1" and 90 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. She was wearing a jacket with a white t-shirt, jeans, and pink, purple, and white Adidas shoes. She has close ties to the country of Muldova. If you have any information about the disappearance of Madalina, please contact the Cornelius Police Department at 704-892-1363. Oh, that is it, you guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I love you. Catch you on the next one. If you liked this episode, be sure to like this episode and follow the show so that you never miss out on new episodes. Get in on the conversation on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Killer Queens Pod, or you can join our Facebook discussion group at Killer Queens Podcast, where we discuss cases covered on the show and all things 90s. If you want to submit a case to be covered on the show, visit killerqueenspodcast.com/case submission and just complete the form. And if we cover the case, we'll give you a shout out on the show. Lilas.